What is up? Welcome to From Soul to Song, honey. Today we're here with R&B legend Elhae, and after some time away, right, you're back with your latest project, Forgotten Flowers, and so we're so excited to hear all about the journey from where you've been, where you landed, and where you're at now. And the first thing that I want to say is, correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that your name is an acronym and it stands for Every Life Has an Ending. Is this still true?
Correct. It is
Beautiful.
correct. No, I something I made up in high school. You know what I mean? It was just writing lyrics in class and wrote the words "Every life has an ending" down in one of the lyrics, and I liked the way it looked on paper, so I took the first letter of each word and just kind of jammed it together, and yeah, just made it work.
Together. Yeah, and there it is. I feel like we don't see acronyms enough anymore. I feel like NERD really had us, but nothing ever really dies, and you've continued it.
Right.
But yeah,
And that's where I got the inspiration from too. You know what I mean? Like I'm a huge Pharrell fan, so it was
yeah,
kind of like piggybacking.
yeah. No, I live, breathe, and Pharrell is in my veins, and even the reason why I brought up acronym is because I think it's really evident that you're entering a really important and a new era in your life, and so I'd love to know, in the lines of "Every life has an ending," what life is ending for you right now, and what's beginning.
Ooh, that's a good question. Currently, I mean, I feel like the whole major label life. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
had this idea of, what my life was supposed to be like, and quickly found out that that wasn't the path that was kind of meant for me personally.
Yeah.
And it's kind of tough when you kind of look to your left and your right and see your peers prospering in that system, but you don't feel like you kind of really work well in that system.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm kind of like putting that to bed and moving on this new independent venture, which has been kind of rewarding as well. But it's a lot of tough work as well, and trying to figure out like navigating it like right as we speak. So, but it's been fun. It's been great. It's been rewarding too to see people taking the project and all this time and effort that I put into it be worth it. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And I'm sure it was a big decision to experience something that you thought you had really wanted and for it to be more rancid than sweet. And you
hmm
let a lot of people into sort of that experience in the inner world with a really vulnerable post. I'd love to know what it was like to kind of write that and put that out there. Was it scary for you to admit that truth out loud, or where were you?
Well, I wrote like 15 notes because they were all like really, really long because I can't,
Yeah.
put the last 5 years in one paragraph. It's just not going to happen, So
Mm.
I did a lot of condensing. Then I did a lot of like there was certain posts that or certain notes that I wrote that I was just like, this is too aggressive. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of hurt and pain behind these words as well. You know what I mean? It's like disappointment. You know what I mean? So I had to find this balance of like, how can I get my message across that doesn't seem salty, but also is just like, you know, optimistic about the future. You know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, it was one of those things I just had to find a balance of how to kind of get it together. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was beautifully translated because I think it was evident that you were dealing with some real grief there, but also that you were excited about what it was meaning in terms of like what you get to do now, and what independence really looks like for you. And so I'm curious to know, how did you and how are you maybe still working through any of those emotions related to like the disappointment or the grief or having to kind of be away, not being able to be as creatively fluid or fertile as you wanted to. How do you process it?
That's a good question too. I think for me, the last year has been a kind of sort of healing for me, and it started with my daughter at the beginning of last year. She was born in February, and it seemed like just having that time with her all year and realizing like, okay, I'm not doing as much as I need to be doing, um, on the career spectrum side of things. But I have this precious child, this precious baby, that is depending on me, and that was like a wake up call to me. That's like, this is just a small smither or like a small little thing in my life. This is the real. This is the real. This is real life. You know what I mean? Like this child is depending on me now. And I think from that point on, that trickled down into my career, where it was like, okay, now I have a battery in my back. I have something that I'm living for. I have something that needs me to prosper. So it was like, okay, let's get it. Like, okay, well, I know that the major label thing isn't really working out, so let's kind of figure that out. Let's end that, and then let's hone in on what's next. And a lot of people would have rolled over after that, because this is my second label that went south. I was at Atlantic first, and then I went to Motown and Capitol, and a lot of people would probably been like, screw it, I'm done with it, but
Yeah.
I think with having my baby, my daughter, I was like, I gotta get it, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I would say that would probably be it.
Wow. That's the most beautiful. When in February was she born, can I ask?
February 5th.
Do you know that my birthday is February 5th? And when you said February, I was like, why do I feel like I know this child? You have an Aquarius child. I love that. I love that for us.
Yeah, she has a book. She has a book named Baby Aquarius, and she loves it. It's like her favorite book.
I love that. Oh my god, my birthday is, and it's funny because as you're speaking, I'm seeing like little Spirited Away poster in the background, and so I'd love to know, yeah, of course. What are like the little like the gems that maybe you loved or impacted you growing up that you're excited to kind of share with her?
Definitely anime. Huge into anime. It's like a big one for me. Maybe a little bit of gaming. I don't want her to get too crazy into gaming though.
Yeah.
But also music. Like she's very fascinated with music. She loves music, and she hears daddy. Like the other day, I was recording a feature for somebody, and I've had her in my arms as I'm recording this feature, because she just would not let me record this feature with her on the ground. She needed to be picked up. So I'm in front of the microphone with her trying to do this feature. So she sees it. She's seeing it at a very early age of what I'm doing. So if it's something that she's very interested in early on, then it's something that I'll try to cultivate. But yeah, I think that's it.
Wow, that's beautiful. I love it. I love it. And so I think what's gorgeous, especially about your journey, is that you've been in the game for a minute. And like you said, like I've been through different stories in terms of labels, and I think you've already shed so many different skins as an artist. Looking back at where you were when you started versus how the nature of the game has evolved since then, what have you seen change? What is some advice that you would give to someone who's just now entering that you wish you had?
I think adaptation adapting is like a big deal. I mean, for me, I was just having a conversation with Eric Bellinger yesterday on the phone, where it was just like, I'm sitting here asking him, I'm like, because he's independent. He's been doing the independent thing for so long. And I was just picking his brain about like, how he's been navigating it and how he's been so successful in that space. Yeah. And it's just great to have, big brothers and homies in the industry that like you can just call and get advice from. Because a lot of them, there's certain people I call for certain things, and but I was just talking to him about like, I just feel like, when we were first kind of starting out, like Instagram was just like the algorithm. You didn't have to worry about the algorithm as much and different things of that nature, where it's just like, and now like there's I was on YouTube yesterday. I hate to admit this, but I was on YouTube yesterday. I'm like, I feel like an old man, because I'm like trying to figure out like, okay, what's the best time to post? You know what I mean? What do I do? Like, when do I, like, and it's like, I didn't have to worry about that. And it felt like, I was getting like maybe like 10 to 15,000 likes at one point. And then the algorithm struck, and it's just like, it changed everything. So especially on Instagram, but like, yeah, I mean, that's across the board. TikTok is another thing. You have to kind of adapt there, and it's different things that like you can really do to prosper as an artist. And it's more things than it was when I was coming up, especially streaming. That wasn't a thing, SoundCloud was like where we was at. That's how I got my break. And it's funny. It's funny. I was one of the people that Apple reached out to first about the Apple Music beta. It was like the first streaming. They're like, this is this new thing we're working on, and it's Carl Cherry he's at Rap Caviar right now at Spotify, but he reached out to me when he was at Apple, and he was asking me to test this beta out. He was like, "This is what it's gonna be," and da 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 da. And I was like, I don't know what the hell y'all are talking about. I'm so confused. But I mean, look where we are today, you know, and streaming has been a big contribution to a lot of people's pockets as well. So, um, yeah, let's stop it there. I guess I can go on and on about like
tangent
the
if you need
many,
to.
many
Yeah.
different things. Yeah, 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 that
Yeah,
I've been
because
a
I
part
mean,
of. So,
totally. I like as a consumer, I've seen it be so like. I used to, bro, halfway love. I used to listen to that on SoundCloud, and I feel like it was so easy for me to like feel proud of the music that I was finding because now I feel like you're
exactly.
just getting all these curated playlists like thrown at you. Like you don't even have to work to find
Hmm.
good music anymore. And like I think
Exactly.
streaming,
Exactly.
yeah, streaming is such a beautiful gift, but I also think that so many of these systems have taken a lot of the romance out of music. And if I'm feeling
Yeah.
it as a consumer, I wonder what it feels like as an artist that kind of just wants to feel something and make it and give it to the world. And now you have to think about, should
Hmm.
I post at 8 p.m. Eastern type shit? Like,
It's
how do you
terrible.
hold that?
It's so
Yeah, yeah,
bad.
yeah. How do you navigate that?
I think for me, it was about that. I just say I say that about yesterday because I was just kind of curious on where things were, and then
Yeah,
it goes back to the adapting thing where it's just like, okay, well,
you gotta
because every year there's like some guy on YouTube that's like, in year 2023, this is what's going on, you know, and I have to kind of like see what's going on. Like that's just kind of keeping my ear to the streets type
word.
deal. So I don't know. It was one of those things where I just wanted to kind of like see what was going on, but especially after releasing a new project, you know, you want to kind of like see how can I make this a little bit more widespread? How can I get more ears on this thing? So, but yeah, for me, it starts at the music currently, and now it does, where it's just like starts with the music first, and kind of trickles down from there. How to kind of like, I mean, that's the first thing you have to make sure the music, the product is good before even going anywhere else with it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
and the product is good because people are fucking with your new project in such.
thank
I think
you. I
people were just.
appreciate that.
Oh, it's so. I think why people resonate so much with it. A is that I think they were just waiting on you, brother. Like there was always going to be open arms for you to be comfortable enough to be fully yourself again. And
Mm.
I would love to hear from your own words why this project feels more honest and authentic to who you are right now because it resonates in that way.
Start with lyrics. I think for me, a lot of the major label system is built on collaboration. You know, it's a lot about people getting 5, 10 people into a studio and saying, "Hey, make something." You know what I mean? Like, or you might not even have a voice on your own song because it's like, you weren't the person that wrote the song. It's like you were just kind of like a collaborator, just kind of like a fly on the wall. And I
Mm.
liked I came into the industry, of course, with Aura One and Halfway Love and Situations and all these different records that like I completely wrote, like everything from the thought process to the concept of the album to the everything. So
Mm.
I came into the major label system being told that that was not right. Like you shouldn't, you know what I mean? Like you should be open to working with other artists. So
Yeah.
I think over time I got more comfortable with it, and then slowly realized, like it was a very slow realization, very slow. Like I'm not myself. This isn't me. You know what I mean? Like, I think it happened like very, very, very slow. Like Olive Fallen with Atlantic was pretty great. Or two is when it kind of stepped when they stepped in and started like submitting records, and I was like, not really like
Yeah.
feeling it, but they are, that the label is feeling it. So it's like I
Yeah.
want to be on the label's good side, and it's like this thing where it's like, all right, well let's compromise. If I can do like 5 records for me and 5 records for them, then that's fine.
Mm.
So it was just like a slow realization over time that I was like, man, this is not me. So Forgotten Flowers was that you know, mul- that like mindset of like, okay, I can do what I want again. You know what I mean? Like I can say what I want. It can sound how I want it to sound. It was just like, okay, I have full control again. And that's what people fell in love with me for, is me, my mindset. And that's one thing Xavier Omar, I don't know if you know who Xavier is, but he's an artist, a R&B artist as well, but he was one of the people that told me that. He was like, bro, we want to hear what you have to say. You know what I mean? Like, that's why we fell in love with you in the first place. So yeah, I mean, that realization eventually led to where I'm at now, and I'm happier that way, I think, creatively. And I can't really it could be one of those things where it's like maybe I just needed to get out of my system, so I just feel like I'm have control again, you know. And maybe later on, you know, I will kind of venture into more companies and try to figure out other things on that front, working with other people. But at the moment, like, I'm having fun just saying what I want to say and no pressure. I'm not pleasing anyone but myself. You know what I mean? And that's liberating, you know. So
Totally. Has that bled into how you've navigated life outside of work and creativity, right? Like living in a place where you're just sovereign, where it doesn't matter what other people think about you as long as you're
mm.
honest.
um yes and no. I think my personal life is just very chill anyway. I never really like gave a f what like what people said anyway, or like thought anyway. Um, so it's one of those things. Like in my personal life, I've always been very conscious of like my music. My music has been the touchy topic, you know, for me.
Mm.
But anything outside of that, I've always been like, oh, I don't really care what they thought about, you know, that. So, um, yeah, I mean, when we start talking about music, that's when I get a little uh, defensive, I guess, you know. And that's why it's been a little bit that's like been my handicap almost. It's like where
Right.
like I'm scared to put stuff out. I've been anxious and nervous and fearful of what people might think of it. And then it just be like I said, after my daughter was born, it was like, I don't. All right, I have someone that like loves me regardless. You know what I mean, of whatever I have to say, whatever I don't have to say, and there'll be no judgment on this on her behalf. So, you know, that and my family, like, I'm all right, you know. And I know that putting music out is like what I love to do, and that's how it started for me, and that's where it should end, you know. So
Per,
yeah.
yeah. You're an artist and you're sensitive about your shit. And in that, brother. I love that.
Yeah, I mean,
Totally.
yeah.
Totally.
I think that's
And
a lot of artists too, you know.
yeah, of course. Because I mean, it's something that's so. I think particularly relative to your work, it's something that's so personal that it's like anybody
Personal,
having
intimate, yeah.
yeah, anyone having a perspective on what you create is ultimately what feels like a perspective on you, and so you're gonna want to kind of
Yeah.
wear that. And
hmm
um,
And I think
yeah.
to piggyback off of that, I think like it'd be one thing if I was just talking about like strippers shaking ass, you know, like it's one thing, like that's one thing where it's like, okay, you know, I don't care. I mean, if you guys judge that, that's just like party music. But this is music that like it's personal. It's my life, you know. It's things that I've been through, and the way I convey it is like, hopefully, it comes across better, you know. So yeah.
Totally, yeah. Your work really is personal. What was the track that you found to be the most cathartic to write or record for you?
Mm. Um. hmm. Maybe Secrets. I think Secrets was a good one for me.
Mm.
Very kind of like there's a way to kind of like get some stuff off without like just channeling it into into the song without being aggressive towards the person, I guess.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, and without saying names or anything like that can get you in trouble. So it's just one of those things where I was like, I have this to say, and you know how the world takes it is how they take it, you know. So
Totally. And
yeah.
I love that you brought up that song because I think what I'm always curious about is when you write or when you make songs that are so seemingly connected to an experience or maybe something that inflicted some sort of wound. How do you go
hmm
about like when you perform them, right? And it's sort of like this moment of almost reliving the experience. Does it feel
Yeah.
like you're kind of having to re-enter that feeling when you've already maybe mended or closed that door? How is that?
Good question. I typically don't kind of venture off, and because the adrenaline of the show itself is very it's like I'm there to do a job. But there are days where, like, I remember where was we at? Dallas. I was in
Mhm.
Dallas and I did I Don't Believe in Love and I cried the whole way through it. So it's like certain moments like that where you do step into that mindset, or you step into the shoes of that boy that you're
Yeah,
speaking about,
yeah,
um and then there's other days where it's just like, let's have fun, let's just kind of let's give these people a show. So it just depends on what day you might catch me. I might just be in my feelings one day, and then the next be like, finna give these guys a show. So yeah.
yeah. Totally. I've always wondered that. It's always seemed to me like such a crazy thing to, yeah,
Hmm.
reopen things. But
Yeah.
um, I think what's beautiful, like,
Also,
please.
sorry, but also it's like I don't really do a lot of the like really really touchy songs. Like there's certain songs in my discography that's like I don't touch live, just because I know like
Yeah,
how close and personal they are to me in my
yeah,
heart. So like certain songs I don't kind of touch, but
yeah.
most of the ones I do, like I can get through it. I'm fine, But yeah, it's just kind of tidbit.
No, I thank you, because that answers my question. Because I'm like, do y'all just shut off, or like, are there certain songs where you're
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
let me fucking not
Hmm.
just like go through this every single time.
Right.
So I think it's really
Yeah, nah.
emotionally responsible way to navigate it.
Right,
But I think
right.
ultimately you've really mastered the art of love songs. And so I have two questions, but the first one is, what do you think is like the best love song of all time? What's your favorite?
Um, that's a great question. I mean, if I can't not acknowledge the first song that came to my mind when you said that is Music Chose Child Love. You know what I mean? Where I was just like, this is what I think of immediately. I can go into like my head and think of like what that is, but that's the first song that popped up in my head because it's such a beautifully written song, beautifully sounding song,
Yeah.
and well executed song. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there's plenty of amazing love records out there, but I remember specifically listening to that on the bus to school
Mm.
like a lot. So yeah, probably Music
I
Soul
love
Child. That whole album was incredible.
Yeah, yeah,
Was it
totally.
Soul Star or something like that? I
Yeah,
forgot
yeah,
what it was
yeah. And
called.
it's beautiful because I think the love
Soul
songs
Child.
that
Yeah.
the love songs that are have some sort of relevance to our childhoods always, I think, hit different too. Because like,
Yeah.
yeah, you also maybe
Oh,
haven't gotten full love.
Incomplete by Cisco is like
Mm,
another one that
not Cisco. I love that. Hell yeah.
reaches out to me. That whole Unleash the Dragon. I got asked that question in an interview last week, like about that album. And Unleash the Dragon, Cisco is like one of my favorite albums of all time. So
Sick.
yeah,
Hell yeah.
Cisco's that guy.
Cisco is
He
my
don't get a
favorite.
lot of credit, but it's like, man,
I was gonna
he
say,
is a
thank you for paying
pioneer.
respect. Yeah, I don't think many people let
I
themselves look at
mean,
him outside
who
of
was dyeing
gospel.
their hair back then like that? Now we
A
do that
pioneer.
regularly. He's a
Yeah,
pioneer.
yeah, yeah. Justice for Cisco. Thank you for bringing that up.
Justice for
And
Cisco.
yeah,
Hashtag.
yeah, yeah. And the second part of that question was, I think I would assume that parenthood has unlocked a whole new layer of love you probably hadn't met before,
Hmm.
particularly like the unconditional kind. And so, how has
Yeah.
that experience shifted how you maybe look at back at love experiences, how you write about love now? How has love changed for you?
Hmm. What's crazy is I started I started writing a couple songs for her. First off, I wrote one, and that was before she was even born, and the mother of my child, she would play that song on her stomach, like with headphones on her stomach, so she heard it like all the time. So um, it was one of those things where I couldn't even get through that song when I made it. You know what I mean? So now these days, like same thing. I tried to make a song for her one time. It was a couple months ago, and I can't. Like I just break down. You know what I mean? Like it's such a touchy, like emotional thing for me because
Yeah.
obviously there's more personal things in my past that like make me feel that way. But like you know, she's a I feel like she was just kind of some that angel that saved me from a lot. So
Mm,
it's hard for me to kind of write about it, but like um, maybe one day I can kind of get through it. I'm light skinned too, so I'd be
her,
emotional about a lot
I
of shit.
know.
But yeah, nah. Um, but you know, I try to. And another thing is, I typically don't write about love that often. You know, I write about heartbreak a lot. You know, and
Yeah,
that's based on a lot of the confrontations and conversations and experiences that I've had in life. I live in this it's funny. Xavier asked me the other day. He was like, "Do you feel like you could write a love album?" I was like, "I just don't know. I don't think I could. I live in this like dark cloud, you know, when it comes to making music, and it's like I don't know why. I have no idea why. It's it's like being uncomfortable is comfortable for me. You know what I mean? And
mm,
it's such a weird thing. Like,
mm,
um, but also like I feel like another thing is that my fans found me that way. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's like I typically just like to kind of keep it that way and give people what they know me for. I think it would
mm,
be weird if I just came out one day with just a complete love album where it's just like so happy and joyful. People be like, "Oh, I
yeah.
don't even know who this guy is." You know what I mean? Like, um, so I typically just kind of like hang around in that area, and it's very comforting for me to be in that area. I just love make and there's something it's beyond that. It's the chords, dark chords. Like I love certain chords and
Yeah.
progressions and certain keys that songs are in. Like and it just fits for a darker theme. So yeah, I mean that's kind of like the long answer.
It was the perfect answer. Perfect
Yeah.
because I couldn't understand it more. I feel like yeah, like if Frank Ocean one day just came out with an album that was like hella jolly with it, we'd be like, my
Yeah, we'd be
brother.
like happy from Pharrell. You're like, what, Frank?
Yeah,
What is
imagine.
this?
Totally. But I would argue that heartbreak songs are love songs. I think that love
Yeah, of
is
course.
messy and love is so
It's
complex.
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think we need those artists that are brave enough to confront just how yeah, just the depth of what it means to be honest about love. And I think you've
Yeah,
done
and
that.
like you said, like there's many sides to love, and it's like it's very complex. There's no real one answer, you know,
Yeah.
about it. And for me, I know I say like I don't write love songs, but there's love in the song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's remnants and pieces of it there, and the reason why I feel that way. And I don't think there would be heartbreak without love. You know what I mean? You
Right.
have to be in love for
Yeah.
that to be even a thing. So yeah,
Totally. I think heartbreak has been the greatest teacher, at the very least in my life. And I think that your work and who you stand in today is the embodiment of someone who's been able to confront a lot of lessons that, different
definitely,
forms of
one
heartbreak.
hundred
I think
percent.
even having, like, working with a label go differently than you planned is in its own
Yeah,
way a form of heartbreak. And so I think you stand as the embodiment of resilience and strength. And
absolutely,
that's why we rock
absolutely.
with
Yeah,
you. Yeah, and that's beautiful.
absolutely.
So, lastly, how are, I think, especially taking all of that into account, how are you tending to your heart, to your soul? What does self care look like for you? What does your day to day look like? How are you taking care of yourself?
Oh man, well, having a daughter, that's difficult to be honest.
Right.
That's the real answer. I could
Yeah.
say like I go to therapy every day and like da 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 like, um, but the real answer is I just have to carve out time for myself every now and then just to, and a lot of my therapy comes through creating music as well. So that's a great
Mm.
outlet for me, to kind of get some of those thoughts and that energy out. Um, but also like just walks and I'm the type of guy that goes to movies by myself. Like I'm very, very like,
Same.
solo self heal. I forgot who I watched the interview that said that about themselves. Is like that's how they deal with stuff. Is like they
Same.
lucky enough to be able to just be able to self heal. And it might take
Mm.
time, but just take some time out for myself. Long showers, You know what I mean? Like
Hell
different
yeah.
things that just kind of can make me feel the things that make me feel good, you know.
Mm.
And it's small things. It's not money. It's not fame. It's just things that like people take for granted every day, you know, that I kind of like just am appreciative for. So
Yeah. Finding it in the small things and letting yourself go on. And
yeah,
people are so scared to go to the movies by themselves. And I'm like, y'all, it's literally it's the
I
best.
love it. It's so yeah, it's so relaxing, especially if you get a spot like with no one around. It's like I'm chilling. It's just me, the movie. I'm in Zen mode,
Hell
and
yeah, bro.
I'm chilling. Yeah, I like it.
So what can we expect next from you? Are there any visuals coming out? Are there any more components to this project? Anything that you want us to know or look out for?
Yeah, well, um, I'm working on vinyls. That's like a thing that people have been
Mm,
asking for, and they've been asking for vinyls for years.
yeah.
So I'm working on that for this project, and then also deluxe version of the project. Gonna add a few songs. We're working on that right now,
Mm.
and yeah, I am working on a visual too. Um, we haven't fully fleshed it out. I have the treatment and stuff, and we're all kind of sort of like bare bones treatment. But yeah, we're working on it, you know. And this is like one of three projects I think I want to put out this year. So I still
Hey.
working on some stuff, and I talked to Eric yesterday, and he was saying something about maybe doing a project together. That could be interesting. Who knows?
Oh, I love it.
So yeah, I mean, just kind of trying to keep the ball rolling. Like I'm saying, I'm independent now, so there's no right or wrong way to do it. You know, just like he was telling me, just be consistent. You know what I mean? And that's one
Yeah.
of the things I've struggled with in my career is just consistency. So now I have the opportunity to be consistent. So
Mm.
I'm excited and just you know taking it as it comes. You know.
Per, that's it. That's it. And I can safely say, as a member of your audience, just how excited we all are to not only just for receiving this new batch of music, but ultimately to witness the fact that you are as authentic, as honest, as brave as you've ever been. And I'm so
Thank you.
excited to see the way that it continues to unravel for you this next chapter, not only as an independent artist, but also just like as a father. I think is really going to really introduce you to new parts of you. And I think that that's
Yeah,
incredible to witness. So yeah.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah,
I appreciate it. Thank you for sticking by and listening and supporting. I appreciate it. You know what I
of
mean?
course.
These are people like you are the reason why I do what I do. So I'm definitely
Hey.
appreciative, grateful.
That was from soul to song. Elhae, any last things to say, or do you want to sign off?
No, thank you guys for having me again. And yeah, I mean, Forgotten Flowers is out right now. And if you're listening with from the Atlanta area, show on the April 27th, and Forgotten Flowers Experience should be interesting. Yeah, I mean, thank you guys. I appreciate it. Look out for more stuff coming this year.
Hey, thank you for rocking with us.